Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This week in the Bible Bistro, we're going to take up Psalm 55, Part 2. Last week we did Part 1, and this is a maskil, a Psalm of David. And we remembered that a maskil is a teaching psalm, so we're going to be taught something here. And he goes into great detail about his enemy, and it seems like it's a they, for they cast iniquity upon me, and wrath they hate me. So there's a bunch of somebodies, and we talked about the possibilities here for Saul or Doeg and the Ziphites, and could this be a continuation of Psalm 54? And we also looked at 1 Peter chapter 5, talking about our enemy. You know, we have an enemy of the soul. And we also talked about there in 1 Peter chapter 5, the afflictions that come upon the church, which, you know, the Lord ordains affliction for our good. And we talked about that some last week. And the request that he has there in verse 9, his request in verses 1 and 2 all have to do with his prayer, you know, that God would hear his prayer and attend. And then he makes a request in verse 9. He speaks about the condition of things in verses 10 and 11. And so today we come to verse 12, and I'm going to read verses 12 through 14 today. So if you have your Bible, come on and sit down here with me, open it up to Psalm 55, and we're going to look at verses 12, 13, and 14. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was you, a man mine equal, my guide, mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together. We walked unto the house of God in company. All right, so that's verses 12 through 14. And you'll notice that we've gone from a they, this bunch, this unknown group of people, the voice of the enemy, they cast iniquity, they hate me, and so forth. They would hasten David's destruction, and they go about the walls there in verse 10, so forth. There, you know, wickedness is there in the midst. But now it's a he. It wasn't an enemy that reproached me, neither was he that hated me, but it was you. So David now narrows it down to a person. Now, we don't know who this person is, but we can assume some things. And so he talks about this person, his equal, his guide, his acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together, walked unto the house of God in company. So they were that close that they went to worship together. They were, at least on David's part, he was depending on this man to be his guide and to be his buddy. You know, it's his equal, his acquaintance. They took counsel together. So who could this be in David's life? One individual in particular comes to mind, and that is Ahithophel. And you'll recall Ahithophel's story in 2 Samuel chapter 15. When Absalom comes to the throne, he comes to the throne with the help of a man named Ahithophel, who was David's counselor. He was sort of like David's major domo. He took care of a lot of things. His wisdom guided David and helped to guide the nation. And now that Absalom has come to the throne, Ahithophel thinks that he should throw his lot in with him. As a matter of fact, he's one of the ones that has encouraged Absalom to this point. So he's now become Absalom's counselor. And I think that it fits then that this person, whoever it is that David's talking about, is this fellow Ahithophel. Of course, now when we read this, we also think of Judas in the New Testament, who was Jesus's acquaintance and who Jesus took counsel together with and so forth. Judas who betrayed him. So Ahithophel is the one who, you know, reproached and magnified himself against David. And David says, I could have borne it if it was an enemy, and I could have hid myself from an enemy, but from Ahithophel, my friend, It strikes closer to home, doesn't it? All right, well, join me again tomorrow, and we will look at verses 15 through 17 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.